Your kindness isn't harmless. It's a mirror they use to see your weakness. You think you're being compassionate, but what you're really doing is bleeding for an audience that only came to watch. Power doesn't always announce itself with cruelty. Sometimes it wears a smile. Sometimes it speaks in gentle tones and says, "I understand." And before you realize it, that understanding becomes a cage, one built from your own empathy. You've been taught that compassion is the highest virtue, that mercy is the mark of moral strength. But no one ever told you this. Mercy, when given to the undeserving, becomes self-erasure. It's the slow death of your boundaries disguised as goodness. Most people think the manipulator shouts. They imagine dominance in aggression, the loud, the arrogant, the visibly cruel. But the true masters of control never need to raise their voices. They let you hand them the knife, believing it's an act of love. Here's the cruel truth. They don't need to take your power. You give it away willingly, under the illusion of compassion. You silence your instincts to avoid hurting feelings. You forgive what hasn't earned forgiveness. You stay when every part of you knows it's time to walk away, because you were conditioned to believe that being kind makes you safe. It doesn't. It makes you predictable. And predictability is power for someone else. There's a reason manipulators target the kind-hearted. Empathy is their map. Guilt is their compass. And your need to be seen as good, that's the leash they hold. They'll call you understanding while testing how much you'll tolerate. They'll praise your patience while quietly marking how far you'll bend. And each time you rationalize their behavior, they learn something critical, that you fear being unkind more than you fear being used. They weaponize that fear, because once someone learns that your moral code can override your self-respect, you're not compassionate anymore, you're compliant. What they don't tell you is that mercy can be seductive. It feels holy to be the forgiving one. It feeds your identity, makes you believe you're above revenge, above ego. But every time you choose understanding over accountability, you carve a deeper grave for your own boundaries. There's a point where empathy stops being noble and starts being naive. When you offer kindness to those who exploit it, you don't just enable them, you invite them. Because in the realm of human psychology, what we tolerate becomes permission. They study your reactions like scientists observing a test subject. When you flinch at conflict, they smile. When you soften at tears, they memorize it. They learn what words open the gates of your forgiveness. Words like, "I didn't mean to," "You're overreacting," or the deadliest of all, "I thought you understood me." And you do. You understand them too well. But what you don't understand is this. Understanding someone doesn't mean they deserve access to you. Compassion is only power when it's selective, when it's rooted in awareness, not impulse, when it comes from choice, not fear. But most people give mercy to avoid guilt, not because the other person has earned redemption. The manipulator knows this better than you do. They don't fear your love. They rely on it, because love makes you justify everything that logic would condemn. You don't see the pattern forming. You just keep trying to be better, kinder, more patient, more forgiving. And with every selfless act, your identity shifts from sovereign to servant. That's when you become a mirror, not a person. You reflect what they need to see. You shape yourself around their pain, their excuses, their weakness. And soon, your empathy isn't connection, it's camouflage. You hide your resentment behind smiles. You disguise exhaustion as peace. You call avoidance understanding. And deep down, a quiet truth begins to whisper. This isn't mercy anymore. It's fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being called cold. Fear of being seen as unkind. But here's the paradox no one teaches you. Mercy without strength is manipulation waiting to happen. To be truly kind, you must be dangerous first. Only then is your mercy a choice, not a compromise. Because when a lion spares a wounded creature, it's mercy. When a lamb does it, it's a meal. You may not realize it yet, but the world runs on quiet predators, people who disguise appetite as affection. They speak softly because power doesn't need to shout. They wear humility because authority doesn't need validation. And they use compassion the way a hunter uses bait, to draw you closer, to make you trust the very hand that will cage you. But eventually, mercy stops feeling righteous. It starts feeling heavy. Your kindness becomes currency you can't afford to spend. And you start to wonder, when did your empathy become their weapon? That's when the first fracture appears. When the warmth you gave no longer feels holy, but haunted. When the thought creeps in, maybe kindness isn't always good. Maybe mercy has its own mask. And once you start seeing that mask, you can never unsee it again. Because you start noticing how people flinch at consequences. How they beg for forgiveness not out of remorse, but out of fear. How they study your softness like an open door. And that's when you realize, the true test of compassion isn't how much you can give, it's how much you can withhold. Mercy, in the wrong hands, is just another form of control. And the moment you understand that, is the moment you stop being the prey and start learning the language of power. Machiavellian lesson. Mercy is disguised steel. Give it only to those who can carry it. You thought mercy would protect you, that understanding someone would make them understand you. But here's what you've begun to realize. Some people don't want forgiveness. They want freedom from consequence. They confuse your empathy for permission and your silence for surrender. It's not that you didn't see the red flags. You did. You just painted over them in softer colors. You told yourself stories to make their cruelty make sense. You said things like, they didn't mean it. They're just hurt. They'll change if I love them right. But love doesn't heal what refuses to see itself. And the moment you choose someone's comfort over your clarity, you become the sacrifice on your own altar. They don't destroy you by shouting. They do it by making you question your perception. By convincing you that boundaries are cruelty and that your resistance is betrayal. Every manipulator knows the secret language of guilt. It sounds like, I thought you were different. Like, after everything I've been through, you're really going to abandon me? They use guilt to twist your virtues into shackles. Because the empath fears one thing above all, being the villain. And so, you overcompensate. You explain yourself to those who have no intention of understanding. You overgive, hoping gratitude will appear. But gratitude never comes from those who use kindness as currency. They don't want your compassion. They want control wrapped in compliments. Here's the dark psychology beneath it. Humans crave moral superiority, even manipulators. So they disguise self-interest as suffering. They make their pain your responsibility. And once you accept that responsibility, you begin to confuse the emotional labor with loyalty. You start thinking love means endurance. That staying means strength. That forgiveness is the mark of wisdom. But wisdom without discernment is just self-sabotage in noble clothing. Because love without limits is not love. It's dependency. It's the emotional hunger to be needed, even at the cost of your peace. And those who sense that hunger will feed it until you forget what hunger even feels like. They make you feel chosen, but only when you serve their comfort. They call you understanding, as long as you don't disagree. They praise your compassion, right before exploiting it again. You become addicted to their approval, to the idea that your kindness can fix what is fundamentally broken. But here's the secret they never tell you. You can't heal someone who profits from staying wounded. Their pain is their weapon, and every time you try to save them, you reload it. Betrayal, in its purest form, isn't someone hurting you. It's someone using the version of you that loves to destroy the version that sees. It's the collapse of trust within yourself, not just in them. Because the real damage isn't what they did. It's what you did in response. The boundaries you lowered, the instincts you silenced, the self-respect you negotiated away for the illusion of peace. That's why betrayal feels like madness. Because it's not just their deception you grieve, it's your own participation in it. You start asking yourself, how did I not see it? Why did I keep believing them? The answer is cruel but honest. You wanted to believe in your own goodness more than you wanted to face their darkness. Compassion became your shield. You held it up to feel safe, not realizing it was transparent. They saw through it and saw you. Your guilt, your softness, your need to be the bigger person. That's all a manipulator needs. The most dangerous predator doesn't chase. It waits. It lets you come closer, drawn by your own empathy. And when you do, they feed on the part of you that still thinks love can fix broken people. But what if mercy was never meant to be unconditional? What if compassion was supposed to be earned, not assumed? What if the kindest thing you can do for the wrong person is walk away? That's the paradox of power. You don't become cold by setting boundaries. You become clear. You don't lose your heart. You reclaim it from those who mistook it for open ground. Because every manipulator fears one thing more than confrontation: indifference. When your empathy no longer responds, when your silence becomes final, when your forgiveness runs out and your presence follows, that's when the spell breaks. But breaking that spell isn't easy, because compassion isn't just emotion, it's identity. You built your sense of worth around being the understanding one, the healer, the one who never gives up. Letting go feels like cruelty. But staying? That's slow self-annihilation. There comes a point where love becomes self-betrayal, where understanding someone means betraying yourself, where forgiveness turns from healing into habit. That's when mercy mutates into manipulation, not by them, but by you. Because the hardest truth to face is this: sometimes the manipulator you must escape is the version of yourself that refuses to stop saving everyone else. You can't protect what preys on your compassion. You can only awaken from it. And that awakening begins when you finally say, "I see you, and I see me, and I choose me." Machiavellian lesson: to betray yourself in the name of mercy is the quietest form of suicide. Black screen. Soft piano fades in, echoing like a memory. Then, a voice. Mercy looks beautiful until you see the blood beneath it. Most people think mercy is sacred, a virtue, a sign of a pure heart. But in the real world, mercy is rarely free. Behind every act of forgiveness lies a transaction. Some give mercy to feel powerful. Others offer it to disarm their enemies. And the rarest few use it as a weapon sharper than any blade. Compassion, at its core, is emotional leverage. It gives the giver control, moral, psychological, and social. When you forgive someone, you position yourself above them. You hold the power to decide, "You are guilty, but I choose to spare you." Mercy, then, is hierarchy disguised as humility. And those who understand this, leaders, manipulators, even saints, can rule entire worlds without raising their voice. Power hides best in kindness. They'll never call it manipulation. They'll call it grace. But make no mistake, mercy given too early or too often creates dependence. You forgive once, and they test you again. You forgive twice, and they learn you won't fight back. Forgive a third time, and they own you. Niccolo Machiavelli once warned, "A ruler who is overly merciful invites rebellion," because mercy without boundaries breeds entitlement. When you rescue people from the consequences of their own actions, you teach them that your strength exists to protect their weakness. And the more you shield them, the more they sharpen their knives behind your back. So Machiavelli's truth is this: mercy is not to be abolished. It is to be strategically rationed. Like gold, not water. Give it when it builds loyalty. Withdraw it when it weakens respect. Because respect without fear rarely lasts. Here's the dark twist. Mercy doesn't just control others. It also controls the merciful. When you forgive someone, you tie your identity to your virtue. You start believing that being the good one gives you purpose. But predators love that. They know your morality is predictable. And predictability is the first weakness they exploit. They will push boundaries, twist your empathy into guilt, and soon, your compassion becomes the cage you built for yourself. They don't fear your kindness. They depend on it. You become useful to them, a weapon they can wield by crying, "Don't you care about me?" So what does the strategist do? He studies the battlefield of emotion. He learns to show mercy not as submission, but as strategy. Selective mercy is an art. You forgive when it serves your position. You remain silent when your silence instills reflection. You walk away when your absence becomes punishment. That's how power balances empathy. That's how kings stay human without being devoured by humanity. Mercy without wisdom is surrender. Wisdom without mercy is tyranny. The strategist walks between both, unseen, unbroken. Today, mercy doesn't wear crowns. It wears smiles. It hides in text messages that say, "It's okay, I understand." even when it isn't okay. It lives in workplaces where people exploit kindness, in relationships where guilt becomes the leash, in families where forgiveness replaces accountability. And yet, those who learn to see through these masks, those who can feel compassion but not be ruled by it, become untouchable. Because while everyone else drowns in emotional obligation, you stand apart, calm, calculating, free. You know when to forgive, when to withhold, when to walk away, and most importantly, when to let others feel the weight of their own choices. But here's the paradox. To master mercy, you must also face your inner tyrant, because the moment you stop forgiving, a darker side of you awakens, cold, detached, intoxicatingly powerful. You'll want to use that power to dominate, to control, to never be hurt again. And that's where most fall. They trade empathy for cruelty. True mastery lies in balance. You don't kill your compassion, you discipline it. Mercy remains your tool, not your weakness. Your mask, not your cage. Power is not the absence of mercy. It is the ability to grant it without losing control. Mercy is not about the other person. It's about you, and what you reveal when you choose it. To forgive out of strength is divine. To forgive out of fear is slavery. So the next time you face betrayal, manipulation, or cruelty, pause, observe, ask yourself not, do they deserve my mercy? But does my mercy serve my power? Because in the end, every act of compassion writes the balance of your fate. And when the world bows to power disguised as mercy, remember this ancient truth: the purest mercy is understanding when not to show it. Scene 8. Modern masks of mercy. In today's world, the masks of mercy are endless. They appear as coworkers who apologize after sabotaging you, as lovers who say, "I didn't mean to hurt you," after doing it again, as friends who need one more chance. But mercy, repeated without accountability, becomes permission. Every time you say, "It's fine," when it isn't, you train others to believe you'll accept anything. Mercy given without consequence doesn't heal relationships. It erases respect. And when respect fades, love follows. The relationship rots in silence, not because one betrayed, but because the other kept forgiving what should have been stopped. Every "it's okay, you give too early" rewrites your worth in their eyes. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine withholding forgiveness. Silence, not rage. Distance, not explanation. Calm, not chaos. That is power, because when you stop explaining your pain, the manipulator begins to fear what you'll do next. When you stop forgiving, they start reflecting, not out of guilt, but out of confusion. And confusion breeds respect. You see, the merciful forgive to feel noble. The powerful forgive to gain control. The wise forgive in silence when it no longer matters. The world listens more when mercy turns to silence. Mercy is a paradox. It's both the symbol of humanity and the instrument of control. But the secret isn't to destroy it, it's to master it. Use mercy when it strengthens your position. Withhold it when it weakens your boundaries. And never let guilt decide when forgiveness is due. Because mercy is not about the other person. It's about who you become by offering it. Forgive when it aligns with wisdom, not weakness. When it restores order, not illusion. When it reinforces dignity, not dependence. Mercy is divine only when it obeys reason. And in that truth lies the power every strategist knows. The purest mercy is understanding when not to show it.